The faint clatter of silverware and hollow laughter from that Christmas dinner still echoed in my mind. In my grandparents' country house in Vermont, the antique fireplace cast long shadows over faces that hadn't visited my bistro in nearly 5 years, despite it being just down the hill from our family's insurance agency. "Clara." My cousin Sophia's voice cut through the idle chatter, sharp and expectant. "Tell everyone your exciting news," she said. I braced myself, already knowing where this was headed. Sophia sat there, her crisp navy blazer catching the light, her engagement ring sparkling as she reached for her champagne flute. The same smug expression she always wore was plastered on her face, as though she were about to remind everyone why she was the pride of the Anders family. "I made regional director," she announced, her grin wide and confident. "The youngest in the agency's 112-year history." The table erupted in cheers. Grandpa smiled proudly. Grandma dabbed at her eyes. Uncle Mark raised his glass high. "To Sophia Anders, keeping the Anders legacy alive." I took a small sip of cider, thinking about the investment proposals waiting back at my apartment. But they didn't know about those. To them, I was just the eccentric Anders who preferred cooking and coffee over a real career. "And you, Clara?" Great Aunt Evelyn's syrupy voice broke my thoughts, a mixture of pity and judgment in her tone. "Still running that little cafe?" I smiled faintly. "It's called the Golden Elm Bistro," I replied casually. "And yes, I am still flipping pancakes." Sophia chuckled, exchanging smirks with our cousin Liam. "You know the agency could always use another sales assistant if you want something more stable," Sophia suggested. I toyed with my fork, recalling the client meeting I'd had that afternoon. It was the one where I secured a 5-year catering contract with the biggest ski resort chain in the region, a deal worth far more than Sophia's yearly commissions. But they didn't know that. Not yet. "The bistro keeps me busy enough," I answered casually. "Busy enough to pay for heating this place?" Grandpa teased, half joking. I almost laughed. If they only knew I had bought the entire property that the bistro sat on, plus 3 others on the block. "I get by," I said simply. Sophia dove into a long story about her latest multi-million-dollar policy negotiation. The family listened intently, as they always did. Sophia, the golden child who followed every rule, Ivy League, executive training, and straight into the family business. And me? I was the disappointment who chose culinary school at 22 and turned a rundown tavern into a booming destination that now made more in 1 quarter than their entire agency did in 1 year. "I just wrapped up the Sterling Hotel's contract," Sophia said, swirling the last of her wine. "You should have seen their legal team panic when I pointed out the flaw in their liability clause. Mr. Carter was so impressed. He's moving all his accounts to our agency now." I kept my expression blank, though the mention of Benjamin Carter didn't faze me. If Sophia only knew who really owned most of those resort properties through shell companies managed by me. "I don't get it," Grandma whispered later, trapping me by the sink as I dried the dishes. "You're sharp, Clara. You could have had everything Sophia has, the job, the reputation, the respect. Why waste your talents on a little diner?" I polished a heavy serving plate, thinking about my 9 a.m. conference call with bank managers from 2 different states. "Not everyone dreams of insurance, Grandma," I said calmly. "But you're capable of so much more," she insisted. "Look at Sophia. The custom suits, the new Lexus, the gorgeous penthouse condo. Don't you want real success?" I thought about my own penthouse, which I closed on last month under my investment firm's name. Top floor, better views, paid in full. "I'm happy with my choices," I said simply. Grandma sighed, frustration crossing her features. "I just worry about your future," she said. "The restaurant business is so risky. What if you want a family someday? How will you support them?" I almost laughed, thinking about my growing real estate empire, my silent partnerships, my diversified stock portfolio. The bistro had only been step 1. A door into an entirely different world. Later that evening, as the family bundled up to leave, Sophia pulled me aside by the old oak coat rack. "Hey, I meant it about the agency," she said, resting a manicured hand on my arm. "Uncle Mark would set you up in underwriting. You could work your way up fast." "Thanks," I said lightly, shrugging her off. "But I'm exactly where I want to be." Sophia's smile faltered. "Clara, seriously, you can't run a breakfast place forever. Don't you want to be someone?" If she only knew I was already someone, bigger than any of them had even imagined. Tomorrow would prove it. "That's a go." "Early day tomorrow," I said, glancing at my watch. "Right," she said, smirking. "Those waffles won't flip themselves." I drove back to town to the real headquarters, hidden in plain sight, right above the Golden Elm Bistro. While my family thought I spent my days pouring syrup and wiping tables, I had built an empire in secret. The bistro was just the storefront, the visible part they could point at and belittle. Behind it lay a vast network of real estate acquisitions, strategic investments, and quietly signed contracts that would soon reshape our little mountain town. Unlocking the private door tucked behind the pastry kitchen, I climbed the stairs to my real office. It was a sleek, sunlit space outfitted with only the essentials. I slid into my leather chair and opened the folder labeled Carter Holdings. Tomorrow morning, Benjamin Carter wouldn't be meeting with Sophia at some high-rise agency office. He'd be meeting with me in my bistro. For years, he had helped me discreetly acquire properties through various shell companies, never revealing to his own team or my family who the true buyer was. I pulled out the final contract, the one consolidating all my holdings into a single entity, Anders Ridge Management. The name held just enough family irony to make me smile. My phone buzzed. A message from Nina. Dinner was fun. FYI, Mr. Carter might pop into your cafe tomorrow. Don't mess it up. He's very important to the agency. I set the phone down without answering, my smile widening. More would be unforgettable. The paperwork was simple. All the companies I'd created over the past 5 years would merge under Anders Ridge. The transfer would make me the largest landowner between Montpelier and Burlington, all without ever stepping into a courtroom. As I double-checked the final signatures, I thought about Sophia's cocky grin at dinner. Grandma's worried whispers. Uncle Mark's patronizing jokes echoed in my mind. They had no clue. While they focused on titles and nameplates, I'd been quietly acquiring the very land beneath their feet. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. I arrived at the Golden Elm Bistro before the sun rose. Lucy, my manager, was already preparing the coffee bar. The meeting room's ready, she said, handing me a cup. Though she added, furrowing her brow, why would some big shot want to meet here instead of a proper office? I smiled, sipping my coffee. Sometimes the biggest deals happen where no one's looking. At exactly 9 a.m., the glass door swung open. Benjamin Carter stepped inside. Despite being one of New England's most influential developers, he wore simple jeans and a navy sweater. That's what I liked about Benjamin, no flashy displays, just results. Morning, Miss Anders, he greeted warmly. Then louder, could I get a cappuccino? I grinned and slipped behind the counter. It was a game we both knew well, me, the cheerful small business owner, him, the casual customer. No one could have guessed that we were about to sign a deal worth tens of millions over coffee. As I steamed the milk, the door chimed again. I glanced up to see Sophia entering, leather briefcase in hand, her heels clicking against the wood floor. Mr. Carter, she called, clearly startled to find him here. I wasn't expecting to see you this early. Benjamin accepted his cappuccino with a nod and a warm smile. Ah, Mr. Richardson, your cousin makes the best coffee in town. Would you care to join our meeting? Sophia hesitated, her eyes darting between the two of us. Meeting? Yes, Benjamin said smoothly regarding the Ridge Valley Development Project. He gestured toward the private meeting room at the back. Shall we? Sophia's mind was clearly racing, trying to figure out why her most important client was having a meeting inside my small breakfast place. But curiosity overcame skepticism, and she followed us. The room was cozy but professional, with a sturdy oak table, comfortable chairs, and soft ambient lighting. Only the small security camera tucked in the corner hinted that something much bigger was about to happen. I'll need another witness, Benjamin said, pulling a thick folder from his briefcase. Perhaps your cousin could assist. Sophia's composed demeanor cracked for just a moment. Oh no, she just runs the cafe. She doesn't need to get involved in legal matters. Benjamin raised an eyebrow. On the contrary, she's essential to this meeting. I sat confidently at the head of the table, savoring the confusion flickering across Sophia's face. Actually, Sophia, you're the one who doesn't need to be here. But since you are, you might as well witness something interesting. At that moment, the front door chimed again. Grandpa and Uncle Mark entered, spotting Sophia and drifting toward the back. What's going on here? Grandpa asked sharply, frowning. Why is Mr. Carter meeting you in a cafe? Before Sophia could respond, Benjamin smoothly stepped forward. Actually, I invited everyone here. It seemed fitting to finalize these papers where it all began. Where what began? Sophia demanded, clearly confused. I opened my laptop and projected the presentation onto the mounted screen. The title slide glowed brightly, Anders Ridge Management Consolidation. Beneath it, a detailed map of the downtown area lit up, highlighting entire blocks. Dozens of properties now fell under one name, Anders Ridge Management. Grandpa, I said calmly, my company. He stared at the screen, his voice thin. Anders Ridge. I nodded, enjoying the moment. You might recognize a few subsidiaries too. Golden Elm Properties, Ridge Valley Estates, Summit Holdings. Sophia sank into a chair, stunned, as realization hit her. Those are the properties we've been handling insurance policies for. Benjamin corrected her smoothly. Not exactly. Those properties belong to your cousin. I've merely helped her acquire them quietly over the years. That's impossible. Grandpa sputtered, his face reddening. Clara runs a cafe. She couldn't possibly. I pulled out my own thick folder and laid it neatly on the table. The bistro was only the beginning, I said calmly. When I bought this building 5 years ago, I saw an opportunity. Main Street was undervalued, scattered. Nobody was paying attention to the bigger picture. I paused, letting the word sink in. While you were busy mocking my little breakfast place, I was meeting investors, studying property values, and stitching together the largest privately held real estate network this town has ever seen. Mia pulled the contract towards her, her perfectly manicured fingers flipping through each page. Her expression shifted through disbelief, confusion, and finally, sheer amazement. This is worth, she whispered, swallowing hard. This is worth hundreds of millions. You own half of Ridge Valley, Benjamin chimed in with a light chuckle. Actually, more than half, he added. Your cousin has an eye for seeing opportunities where others only see problems. Kind of like turning a dilapidated tavern into the base of a thriving empire, he remarked. Grandpa collapsed into a chair, looking stunned. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I replied softly. You were too busy thinking I was wasting my life flipping pancakes. It was easier to let you think that while I built something on my own terms. You wear an apron? Sophia stammered, trying to piece things together. I smiled slightly. Yep. I wear a lot of things. Sometimes an apron, sometimes a business suit. But the key difference is I never needed anyone else's approval to recognize my worth. Benjamin took out a pen, placing it ceremoniously on top of the final contract. Shall we make it official? He asked, his voice confident. I signed first, bold and resolute. Benjamin followed suit, his signature accentuated with flair. And just like that, Anders Ridge Management became the largest property owner in Ridge Valley. Congratulations, Benjamin said, extending his hand for a shake. Though I'll miss our investment meetings disguised as casual coffee dates. The bistro is still here, I replied with a soft laugh. But I might have to add a second floor soon with all the new clients visiting. Later that night, after the family had scattered to lick their wounds, I sat alone in my office above the Golden Elm. The lights of winter twinkled over the quiet streets below. My streets now. In more ways than one. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Grandma. Can we meet? Maybe over breakfast? I gazed down at my thriving cafe and smiled. One plate, one cup, one deal at a time. I had built my empire exactly as I envisioned. Sure, I texted back. I know a great little spot downtown. The owner's doing quite well these days from what I hear. Success doesn't always come with a corner office or a designer label. Sometimes it wears an apron, serves coffee, and quietly takes over the whole block. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. I closed my laptop with a soft snap and made my way downstairs. Tomorrow, the local papers would carry headlines about the consolidation of Anders Ridge Management, and the whole town would know. But tonight, I still had the bistro to run. Because the best deals, the ones that change everything, don't happen in marble-floored boardrooms. They happen right here, over a warm plate of pancakes, a strong cappuccino, and a quiet certainty about who you are and what you're capable of building. If you've made it this far, thank you. This story isn't just mine, it's for anyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or cast aside because you didn't fit someone else's mold. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been doubted or mocked for dreaming differently? Share your story. Let's lift each other up and show the world that success doesn't come in just one form, one path, or one timeline. If you feel connected to my journey, leave a message. Your voice matters more than you think. And if there's one piece of advice I can leave with you, it's this. Don't waste your energy trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. Build it quietly. Build it proudly. Build it so strong that one day they'll have no choice but to recognize it. Wear the apron. Wear the suit. Wear whatever you like. Just remember your worth has never depended on outside approval. It's defined by your actions, your persistence, and your belief in your vision. I built my empire one cup of coffee at a time. And so can you, no matter what your dream looks like. Start small. Stay smart. Stay focused. Because sometimes the best way to change the world isn't by making noise. It's through quiet, relentless, unstoppable success.